Unfortunately, this story really happened to me and my friends a little over 10 years ago. Since then, a lot has changed. I have a loving family, a good job, and a completely new life. A fresh start, as our ancestors used to say. But as luck would have it, every year in May, looking at the blooming trees and meadow grasses, I remember the sad event of long ago, which turns my soul inside out. This story serves as a kind of cleansing of my conscience from the tragic past, because that horse has been dead for a long time and I still can't get off it. As long as I remember our close knit company, my friends and I have always loved outdoor activities, whether it's skiing in severe frosts or even rafting down a freezing mountain river. Every year, our gang of thrill seekers came up with more and more sophisticated methods of recreation, but I was absolutely up for any kind of craziness, just to forget about the damn boring workdays for a moment. There were only 3 people in our small group: me, my friend Volodya, and his girlfriend, Olia. She was mainly the initiator of various reckless ideas, which my friend and I actively supported both morally and financially. It is worth noting that in the last year of our joint adventures, Olga became actively interested in mysticism and mysterious disappearances of people, which, of course, greatly influenced our future routes. At one time, we even managed to get to the infamous Dyatlov Pass and spend the night at the foot of Mount Kolachakal in 30-degree frost. Then, my friend was looking for a connection between the superstitions of the local Mansi people and the dead Soviet tourists. Of course, neither Volodya nor I saw anything wrong with this funny hobby. Well, so what if a person is fond of all sorts of nonsense? The main thing is that this activity does not interfere with personal life and work. The rest is somehow mediocre. Oh, how wrong we were. Our last trip was right in May, during the holidays, perfect for relaxing, grilling, and recharging. I got a text from Volodya in the morning while I was still in bed, wondering what to do for the next 3 days. "Hey buddy, I have great news. Call me when you wake up." When my friend sent messages like that, it could only mean one thing. Vovka and Olia had found a new place we urgently needed to visit. So I immediately and eagerly dialed the familiar number to find out what my friends had come up with this time. "Hey, good morning. Why are you sleeping so late? You could sleep your whole life away," said Volodya, answering the phone. "Hey, to you too. I'm not sleeping, just lazing in bed, wondering what interesting thing to do," I replied to my friend, hinting that it was time to reveal his wonderful idea. "Well, then I guessed right. And you probably have nothing to do this weekend? Good, that's good. So, listen. We, or rather Olia, found an amazing place about 300 kilometers from our city. It's a long drive, but the scenery is incredible. Artel, you wouldn't believe it. Not only are there wild forests all around, but there are also small waterfalls. By the way, it'll be 24 degrees Celsius and sunny in the next few days, so there's nothing to think about. Are you in? Forest, heat, sun. Guys, that doesn't sound like you at all. Are you tired of extreme severe frosts and all that other devilry? Or are you not telling me something?" I asked, smirking into the phone. "Well, actually, yes. You know Alka. She always finds some nonsense and imagines herself as a hardcore ghost hunter. Anyway, last night she found another article about the disappearance of several tourists in those forests, and now she's freaking out a bit. And it also coincided with these holidays. Damn it. So, come with us. We'll grill meat, sleep in tents, take a break from the extreme, so to speak. It's better than resting there." "Well, I don't know. Listen, since people have gone missing there, maybe we should ditch it? I don't really believe in ghosts, but I sure believe in wildlife. I wouldn't want to run into a bear or a boar. There won't be any bears, and a boar doesn't just attack. Besides, I'll bring a flare gun just in case to scare them off. So don't freak out, everything will be fine. So take 2. Are you in?" he asked again, already anticipating a successful outcome. Well, of course, yes. Do I have a choice? That's the spirit. Then pack your things, buddy. Great things await us. We'll pick you up in about an hour. Will you have time to get ready? I think so. Going to the forest isn't like climbing a mountain. You don't need much. Great. Then we'll be in touch in an hour. All right, Vav, see you. I finished the conversation with my friend, then finally got out of bed and started slowly packing for the ill-fated hike, which really turned out to be a long one. In total, we drove to our destination for about 3 or 4 hours, no less. To be honest, I never liked long drives, especially in the sweltering summer heat. Our company was always fun, and besides, Vovka had candy in the car, so enduring the tedious road wasn't too difficult. Around lunchtime, somewhere around 3 o'clock, we finally turned off the highway and drove along a dirt road along the fields. The beauty of the local nature was simply indescribable. Not a single cloud in the sky, only the afternoon scorching sun and green meadows around. I was most impressed by the entrance to the forest itself, where we were actually heading. It was carefully blocked by someone with as many as 3 heavy logs, on one of which there was a nailed wooden sign with some inscription. After a while, I and 2 of my friends reluctantly left the vehicle and approached the obstructing barrier to at least understand the situation. I still remember by heart that wildly frightening message neatly burned on the board. Stop. 6 people have gone missing in this forest. If you don't want to share their fate, turn around. After reading that, I was stunned and stared at my friends in disbelief. I'd never seen such a serious omen on any of our previous trips. Olia immediately started making excuses, saying she knew about this beforehand and had planned for every possible way to get into the forbidden area. But I was more concerned that someone was directly warning us not to go into this forest, and we were recklessly heading straight into danger looking for trouble. Of course, they immediately started reassuring me that everything was fine and there was nothing to worry about. So what if 6 tourists went missing? That was a long time ago and not even true anymore. Group opinion prevailed. Unfortunately, I couldn't argue with my 2 close friends and agreed to go on, which I later regretted several times. We entered the forest through a detour. There was only one small birch tree blocking the way, which Volodya managed to move aside by himself. Quietly driving into the thicket and along an old, overgrown path, Vova soon parked the car. A small clearing with relatively little grass and trees was perfect for a campsite. We could easily pitch a tent, even play ball, not to mention grilling meat and setting up a delicious feast. We spent the rest of the day and evening relaxing because the next morning, Olia was determined to wander aimlessly through the forest, looking for possible clues to the never-missing tourists. I know it sounds stupid, but Vova always supported his girlfriend's crazy ideas, so I had no choice but to go with the flow and agree to all the conditions of our weekend. Looking back, I can say with certainty that nothing strange happened in that area during the day. Birds sang, the wind swayed the branches of trees, and the sun warmed us with its rays. However, as darkness fell, everything changed as if with a snap of the fingers. There was no wind, not even the usual chirping of crickets. Only absolute silence, and our 2 lonely tents remained in the same clearing. That night, I couldn't fall asleep for a long time, and it wasn't because of a buzzing mosquito, a nagging spirit, or an uncomfortable pillow, but a sudden, causeless attack of heavy anxiety. Everything around seemed unreal, as if nature itself was hinting that something strange was happening. But we naively didn't want to notice these signals, and this is what came of it. The next day, I woke up to the alarm clock at exactly 7 in the morning. I wanted to take a walk early, listen to the cheerful chirping of birds, and generally enjoy a new sunny day. However, I hadn't even left the tent and rubbed my eyes when I suddenly realized that something was wrong. An oppressive silence and darkness reigned everywhere, enveloping all the space around the camp with its tentacles. Looking at the mobile phone display again, I was once again convinced that I, alas, was not imagining things, and the clock really showed the beginning of 8 a.m., and if inside the tent I was still calm or slightly worried, then going outside, I really froze in horror. The forest had changed. The previously lush trees stood completely bare, and the ground seemed scorched, without the usual grass, flowers, and various bushes. This whole picture was overshadowed by the aforementioned darkness hanging over the forest thicket. I didn't delay in raising the general alarm, and after half a minute, my sleepy, frightened friends were standing outside with me, staring at the same terrible landscape of the changed forest. Seeing all this madness, Olia immediately began to panic and rush from side to side. Apparently, Then she no longer wanted to look for clues of missing people and all sorts of mystical nonsense that she was so fond of. But Volodya began, like a madman, rummaging through his pockets in search of his phone to try to call someone for help. At that moment, I didn't add fuel to the fire or scold the instigators, though I was furious and scared. Instead, I silently went around the camp, gathered all the necessary items from our tents and car, and finally broke the silence. Quiet, stop yelling. Calm down, please. There's no signal here. I noticed it when we were grilling meat yesterday. This forest is dead, just like in the mountains at the pass, so don't waste your battery. It might come in handy. Artem, what's going on? The forest, it's changed, Volodya said fearfully, obediently putting his phone back in his pocket. Not only has it changed, but the dawn has disappeared. The first rays of sun should have appeared at 6:29, and now it's already 7:15, and as you can see, it's pitch black. And what are we going to do? My friend asked me, still frightened. I think we should try to get out of here first. Get behind the wheel. I've already gathered all the necessary things. We'll pick up the tents later. Food. Don't forget your ghost hunter, I said, opening the trunk and putting everything inside the car. Needless to say, the car wouldn't start on the first or second try, but only sputtered traitorously and stood still as if rooted to the spot. Murphy's Law. Since none of the three of us were mechanics and it was impossible to repair the vehicle here and now, we immediately began to consider other options for getting out of this cursed thicket as soon as possible. There was only one way out, to wander aimlessly through the forest and look for anything that could help us. All the long time we trudged among the dried trunks of once living trees, Olia was silent and only looked around in fear. Her former confidence was gone. Vova kept trying to get a signal, waving his hand around like an antenna, as if that could help. But I, meanwhile, just walked forward, catching all sorts of bad thoughts about the approaching danger. I don't know how to explain it. Imagine you are in a large cage with a hungry tiger inside. The predator is not yet visible, but you know for sure that it has already gone hunting and is sneaking somewhere nearby. Here's the translation. I felt something similar at that moment. The turning point of our, shall we say, adventure was Vova's sudden desire to climb a tree to try to catch a signal, or at least find a way out of the forest. Unfortunately, one of the branches couldn't support my friend's 100-kilogram body and cracked loudly, sending him plummeting down to the bare earth. The sickening crunch and my companion's agonizing scream after the bad landing didn't bode well. Rushing to the unfortunate man, I saw with the naked eye an open fracture of the femur, meaning only one thing. All three of us definitely wouldn't be getting out of this hell. No matter how much Olia and I tried to lift Vova, no matter how much we encouraged him, he just screamed hysterically in pain and begged us to leave him alone. I confess it was very painful to watch my friend try to calm her beloved and ask him to be patient, but alas, I was powerless in this situation and therefore couldn't think of anything better than to call the grief-stricken girl to me. Olia was completely consumed by hysteria and wouldn't listen to me at all, which left me standing there like an idiot, not knowing what to do or how to proceed. At the moment when I wanted to call my friend over again and talk face to face, a loud siren sounded somewhere 100 to 150 meters away from us. I had never heard anything like it in my life, only in some apocalypse movies or documentaries about Chernobyl. The first thought that came to me then, there's someone else in this damn forest, but whether that someone is dangerous was still an open question. For now. Just minutes after being introduced to the harrowing sound, heavy, approaching footsteps could be heard. Judging by the rumble, it felt like some giant creature was moving very quickly towards us, easily knocking down dry trees in its path. Panic instantly overwhelmed me, and on reflex, I bolted in a random direction, telling Olia to do the same. Unfortunately, she didn't listen. Whether she was confused or trying to help the wounded Vova, I don't know. The consequences were devastating. After running a good distance, I suddenly heard the ground collapsing behind me, a woman's scream followed by a siren. Tears welled up in my eyes and hatred gnawed at my soul. I wanted to turn back and share my comrade's fate, but self-preservation drove me forward. The worst part was yet to come. I don't remember how long I ran through the dark forest, stopping to catch my breath, but I clearly remember hearing the same loud stomping about 100 meters away, shaking the ground. I didn't want to tempt fate, especially since I was exhausted. Hiding was the only option. I ducked behind a large tree and waited nervously, both scared and curious about what lived here. Suddenly, the sounds of the approaching monster stopped, and dead silence enveloped the area. No matter how hard I tried to see, the forest was too dark. It seemed like the huge thing knew I was there and was hunting me. Just as I was catching my breath and about to leave, a dry branch snapped very close behind me. The sound came from above, as if something tall had brushed against a tree while stalking its prey. Whirling around, I froze for a split second. A giant humanoid creature, at least 10 meters tall, was sneaking up on me. Instead of a head, the monster had a pipe with 2 loudspeakers, which it apparently used to produce terrifying siren sounds. Seeing this madness, I jumped to my feet and sprinted in a random direction, hearing the familiar cracking of trees and the same thunderous footsteps behind me. The final blow to my already frayed nerves was another wave of deafening sirens. After that, I lost control and awareness of my actions. One thing was clear. If I stopped, my life would end instantly, so I had to run and never slow down. The chase felt eternal. Seconds stretched into minutes and minutes into hours. I tried to confuse my pursuer and swerve in different directions to gain some distance, but it was all in vain. The thing seemed to anticipate my moves and was actively closing in, not forgetting the nauseating roar of the sirens. The situation changed in an instant when I suddenly tripped over a tree root and tumbled down into a ravine, hitting various parts of my body against all sorts of rocks and dry, lifeless earth. One of those blows landed directly on the back of my head, causing my vision to go black and my brain immediately shut down. I woke up incredibly lucky in a completely different place. It was the same forest, but alive, real. Bright rays of sunlight pierced through the crowns of dense trees, and birds, as if nothing had happened, sang their songs flying over the once dead hollow. It didn't take me long to tidy myself up, look around, and bolt out of that cursed thicket as quickly as possible. At that moment, I was only thinking about saving my own life, as I was terrified of the prospect of falling asleep again and waking up in eternal hell. I couldn't get out of the mysterious forest during the day. I couldn't find the clearing where we had set up camp until evening, nor could I find the rescuers I contacted as soon as I arrived in the nearby town. Couldn't find them in the WSO. The entire forest was searched 3 times, even helicopters were used, no luck. My friends vanished into thin air, and only I knew their true location. In conclusion, I'd like to quote Robert Heinlein, 80% of human wisdom is figuring out what not to butt into. I think this quote is very fitting for that fateful incident that once happened to our close-knit group.